About 90% of the fish feed subsurface. So if the fish are feeding down low, I like to get down to them. To do that, we're using an indicator about 6 feet, in this case, because we're pretty shallow water, above our nymphs. Now the important part is, as I make this cast, it's a pretty easy roll cast, but I can't let that indicator start swinging in the drift, so I'm going to mend my line and constantly keep it upstream so I have a nice dead drift as that indicator floats through the drift. I just keep working that line above it, and that way that indicator is not sliding across the surface of the water, which means my fly would be coming up out of the zone where the fish live. When it gets down to the bottom, I just simply let my rod hang straight downstream, let it swing inside a little bit. Again, nice line control in my right hand. I've always got the line right here. Now I'm just going to use my left hand, pull and roll cast, and as soon as it starts coming down, I'm just going to pick my rod tip up and flip that line upstream from my indicator, and now I've got a nice dead drift. I might need to do that 1 or 2 more times throughout that drift to keep that indicator from moving and sliding. That way it's a perfectly natural presentation, and that's when the fish like to eat. Now here's another good lesson. Really important too. When I'm fishing an area like this, I need to judge the approximate depth of this water. What I've got here is it appears that I'm fishing in about 3.5 to 4 feet of water. The distance between my strike indicator and my fly needs to be approximately 1.5 to 2 times the depth of the water. Now you can't be exact. So what I've done now, a minute ago, I actually moved my strike indicator up on my fly line a little bit. And I think I actually moved it up too much because now I'm dragging the bottom a little bit too much. So I'm going to move that indicator down about 1 foot from where it was, maybe 18 inches, and that should help me get a little bit more of a dead drift. So you're always constantly moving that indicator. That's why it's really important you pick an indicator that's that easy to move up and down on your fly line. There's lots of different kinds of indicators. Some stick onto the fly line. This happens to be called a thingamabobber. It has a nice round hole on the top, and you can throw a little half hitch loop through it. Very easy to change the depth, move it up and down, doesn't affect your fly line at all. But once again, you're looking to have your indicator about 1.5 to 2 times the depth of the water that you're fishing in. Now I've got a much better drift. Now here's something else very important. Okay, so you're drifting through a drift like this, and you're watching that indicator. How do you know if it's a fish or the bottom? Bottom line is, once you make a couple drifts, you'll know if you either have too much weight or if your indicator is too high. If you're constantly bumping the bottom, you know you might want to take off a little bit of weight or change that indicator. But here's the bottom line. If that indicator stops, twitches, moves, whatever it happens to do, something is affecting on the bottom. It's either a rock, a stick, or a fish. Set the hook. Doesn't hurt you to set the hook. Just make sure you don't miss that fish by going, well, I don't know if that was really a fish or not. Pretty soon you feel your line being ripped away from you, and it really was a fish. So if there's any question, set the hook.
Now, I've just made a cast. Noticed immediately, as soon as I make that cast, that fly line is in my control again, underneath my fingers on my rod hand. Once that line gets downstream and I need to strip some back in before my next cast, I'm doing all the stripping right behind my rod hand right here. Rather than trying to reach up here and strip, I release it every time and I've always got to start over again. Show you that one more time. Make a nice roll cast. Immediately, the line gets into control underneath the fingers of my rod hand. As I continue to watch the drift go downstream and I get into position to make my next cast, I want to make a few strips in, and I'm stripping it right behind the fingers of my rod hand, lift my rod tip, and a nice roll cast. I want you to get a look at what a nice dead drift looks like with the strike indicator. I'm going to mend the line just above that indicator, very slowly, carefully, not to move it a lot. It's drifting straight downstream. Fly line is upriver. A little mend again, just like that. Now, if your indicator does this with the fly line downstream and it starts to swing and slide across the river like this, that's not getting a dead drift. that's when you're going to not catch fish, because that fly is coming up off the bottom where the fish are eating. You got to mend that line above so it doesn't swing across the river like this.